Welcome back to Right on the Money, the go-to resource for your financial decisions. Our guest today, Brent Ford, owner of Benefit Wealth Partners. And we've been talking today, basically about the market and how we come to the decisions that we make. And where I'd like to go now, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the experience of working with Benefit Wealth Partners. And one of the things, before I let you answer that, you have a great quote that in order to make the best decisions today, we need to understand what tomorrow is going to look like. Tell me about the experience of working with you in your practice.
Our practice focuses a lot, almost exclusively on kind of planning around every angle that a retiree is going to kind of hit, or an investor is going to hit, not just a retiree. And I think in the early part of my career, I didn't really understand it as well as I do now. But we only get to retire one time, and most people don't have the wherewithal to understand every little nuance that's going to occur in a proper retirement, or a successful retirement, if we wanted to say that. So I think we've used a lot of our experience in retiring people in all walks of life, the federal government, the terrestrial kind of world, to get people to start challenging the way that they're thinking about their retirement. I think the fallacy in retirement is that everything is going to be less expensive, and spending is going to stay relatively the same. And neither one of those two things happen. Things don't get less expensive just because you retire. A lot of people spend more money than they ever did while they were working. So we're challenging that way of thinking from our clients to say, let's start planning differently. Let's stop looking at just rate of return and what the market did in the last 10 years. Let's push you to start thinking about what your ideal retirement looks like, and then let's build a plan around that ideal retirement to see if you can make it.
I love that. I'm just quoting you left and right in this interview, but you have another great piece that I love is that you talk about the fact that not only does your income change in retirement, I've heard lots of folks say that before, and that's pretty common, but you also discuss what you spend it on. So not only does your income change, which that seems like a given, but what you spend your income changes as well. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Early on, when we were starting to build our practice, we had people that were laser focused on what their gross income was going to be. That was always the thing that we looked at. You used to make $60,000, now you're going to make $30,000. It became such a huge mountain to climb for me as an advisor to try and tell people to save extra money, because it was too big of a gap. People went, I'm never going to be able to save enough to get $30,000 extra dollars per year. So we started to manipulate our process and manipulate it in a positive way. Try to put a different spin on kind of what we're looking at. We had to realize that there's a lot of things that are going to change from a worker to a retiree. A big thing being, just as a way to think about it in the simplest way possible, most people think they need X amount of dollars to live, but they're really not living on that right now. That's not the most succinct point.
And we have these, we were talking about paradigms, and we always hear there's all these rules of thumb that are supposed to be one size fits all, and you take this times your income and you're good.
Yeah, I think that's all junk. So like a big thing within the industry is 80% of your gross income.
I hear that.
If you don't have a mortgage, you can live on 80%. I don't think that's accurate at all, because most people aren't living on 80% of their income. You could probably, as long as you're deliberate on what's coming out of your retirement pay, you probably can live on much less than 80%. Obviously spending habits and all that stuff dictate that a little bit. But that's the type of mentality within the industry that we try and challenge. When you set the bar so high for an investor to come in your door, they're never going to take any action. They're not going to be able to do anything, because $30,000 a year, you're going to have to save a ridiculous amount of extra money in order to get that. So let's figure out what the actual number is, what you need, what you're living on now, and how that compares to what you're going to be living on in retirement, because you're not going to be contributing to your 401k anymore. Your health insurance is probably going to change, a little bit. You might not be paying union dues, or you might not be paying for group medical insurance anymore. There's a lot of different elements of that. Let's figure out what that number is that you need to live on, and then let's build your plan around that.
Now, you mentioned something else that I think is great, and that is that, and this goes back probably to paradigm and when you came in the business, but you mentioned that we realize drawdowns in the market are inevitable. And our goal is to help manage your investments so that you'll be well equipped to navigate all possible retirement scenarios. Do you run into, since we've been on, relatively speaking, since 2008, after we came through the Great Recession, the market's been running pretty hot.
It's been great.
And so do you run into people that are maybe have over-optimistic views of things going forward?
It's a really different investor right now. After 2008, kind of that initial wave of people that were, the later portion of their retirement, those people were terrified all the time, never wanted to take any risk or very little risk. Now we have this really weird dichotomy for an investor that's built today. They want to take all of the return, or they want to take all the risk necessary to get these really high arching returns. However, they're very emotionally volatile as well. So when we have a little blip in the market, those are those same people that will run right away to cash because the next 2008 is just around the corner. That's how bad that stung people from an emotional standpoint.
It was a painful time.
It hurt.
Yeah.
And you can still see it. And we got a little experience of that in the fourth quarter of 2018, where the market fell into correction territory, and people made very unwise financial decisions during that period of time. I was even surprised with some people in my client base, because we prep people for this. We dominate all of our time. It's not like we're just walking in saying my return is better than your return, invest with us.
Sure.
We do all of the other stuff to influence that emotional high ground for our clients. Yeah. And it doesn't quite always matter, because people are still 2008 is still very real.
Yeah, we're still people.
Yeah, for right now, yeah.
Now we're going to come back after the break. We are going to talk with Brent, and we're going to talk about something that you said to me off camera that's very interesting, and that is that chasing a return is not necessarily, or a return is not necessarily the correct number to be focused on for a portfolio. That's coming up on Right On to Money.